Why the 1857 revolt was ended as a failure? There were many causes which led to the collapse of this mighty rebellion. Let's look into it. Number 1. Low geographical spread and lack of unity among Indians. The geographical spread of the revolt was not wide enough. It was mainly happened in Upper India alone. Major parts of the Indian subcontinent remained unaffected by the revolt. Not only this, there was no unity among the various classes of Indians to revolt against the British. Even in the army, not everyone was revolting. While Sepoys of the Bengal army were revolting, Madras, Bombay army and soldiers in Punjab fought on the side of the British to suppress these rebellions. The Sikhs also did not support the rebels because they hated the revival of Mughal authority under the leadership of Bahadur Shah Zafar. Sikhs had faced so much oppression at the hands of the Mughals in the past. That is why they did not support the rebels. The big merchants of Calcutta, Bombay and Madras supported the British to suppress the revolt. The modern educated Indians also did not support the revolt because in their view the revolt was backward looking. This educated middle class was the product of the British system of education, and they believed mistakenly that the British would lead the nation towards modernization. When the geographical spread of the revolt was not wide enough, when the various sections of the society was not revolting against the British, the 1857 revolt failed to effectively challenge the British. Number 2. Lack of an effective leadership and disunity among the leaders. Former Viceroy of India, John Lawrence, said that had a single leader of ability arisen among them, we must have been lost beyond redemption. This statement highlights the lack of an effective leadership on the side of the rebels during 1857. Bahadur Shah was at the center of the revolt. When the Sepoys approached Bahadur Shah to lead the revolt, he was in the 80s. Only after much persuasion, he agreed to lead the revolt, but he could not provide an effective leadership. Even among the rebel leaders, there was lack of unity. Leaders were suspicious and jealous of each other and often indulged in petty quarrels. The Begum of Awadh, for example, quarreled with Maulavi Ahmadullah and the Mughal princess with the Sepoy generals. Asimullah, the political advisor of the Nana Sahib, asked him not to visit Delhi because he will be overshadowed by the Emperor Bahadur Shah. All these instances show the selfishness and narrow perspective of the leaders. It curtailed the strength of the revolt and prevented its consolidation. One historian quoted, "Rebel leaders were united in defeat and would have fallen at each other's throats in victory." This Indian disunity played into British hands. Number 3. Lack of a unified plan and ideology for future. The rebellion swept off the British system of government and administration in India for some time, but the rebels did not have any plan to bring alternative system to replace the British Raj. So they believed in the outdated feudal system of Mughal Empire having Bahadur Shah at its head. It was not strongly enough to topple the British. Some of them owed allegiance to the Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah, others to various regional princes. They were in confusion without a unified plan and ideology for future. Number 4. Military superiority of the British. British committed unlimited men and resources to reclaim their empire, while the Sepoys suffered from a desperate scarcity of cash. Rural rebels was only equipped with primitive weapons, and most of them were not even trained soldiers. They were facing the British army, which not only had the most sophisticated weapons, but also the backing of a centralized bureaucracy with efficient communication system. While the rebels were lacking in discipline and a central command, the British continued to have a constant supply of disciplined soldiers, war materials and money from British. Sheer courage could not win against a powerful and determined enemy who planned its strategy skillfully. Because of ill discipline, the rebels lost more men and material than the British in every encounter. The rebellion was suppressed with a brutal force. Delhi was finally recaptured on September 20, 1857. Bahadur Shah Zafar was imprisoned and later deported to Rangoon. The Delhi was a rallying point for the Sepoys, so when the Delhi and Lucknow fell on March 1858, the rebellion entered its dying phase. Very slowly, other centers were taken over by the British. The mighty 1857 revolt ended as a failure. It is apt to conclude with what Bipin Chandra said about it. Despite the Sepoys' limitations and weakness, their effort to emancipate the country from foreign rule was a patriotic act and a progressive step. Even in failure, it served a grand purpose, a source of inspiration for the national liberation movement, which later achieved what the revolt could not.